Hello, hello. What's going on? Greetings, everyone. What's going on? How you doing? All right, all right. I had some cuckoo stuff going on with my Zoom here, but thank you all for jumping on this impromptu live. Didn't have anything, didn't have a time or anything scheduled for this, but just doing some studying during the week, looking at a few things, and definitely what's going on. Let me see who's all in the comment section, who is supporting on this night. What's going on, my brother Bishop Robert Bailey Jr.? What's going on with you, my beloved brother as well? Paul Parker, what's going on with you as well, dear brother? Hope everything is well out where you are. Hopefully you can make it to Sukkot in Jacksonville this year again. Enjoyed you last time. What's going on? Shalom to my sister out there in Boom, Ohio, Mount Olive in Akron, Ohio. What's going on, Sister Nakona Skipper? What's going on with you? Hope everything is well as well. Hope you guys are enjoying yourselves. What's going on? I see others are coming in, and thank you all. What's going on, my brother, brother Ralph St. Clair? What's going on with you, my brother Ralph St. Clair? Greetings to you as well, my dear brother. We go all the way back. What's going on, brother Ray King Hardy? Shalom. What's going on with you as well, the youngster out there in Murfreesboro, Tennessee? What's going on? Shalom, brother Devorius Jackson. What's going on with you as well, my brother? Hope all is well as well. And we're going to get into a little bit on tonight. Just want to have some scriptural conversation about some things. Hey, what's going on? Happy birthday to none other than Vida. Shalom to you out there in Vegas, out there celebrating in Vegas. What's going on with you? Definitely was thinking about Sukkot. I missed Passover this year. It's all good though. I kept it in the house. All right, man. That's what's up. As long as you kept it, that is awesome, man. That is awesome. Definitely. Who's else in the building coming in before we get started here? Just want to have a conversation on tonight. Look at a few passages of scripture. One in particular, you guys see it. It is 1 Peter chapter 5 is what we're going to be looking at on tonight, and looking at a shepherd's assignment. All right. A shepherd's assignment. That's what we're going to be discussing on tonight. Briefly, I know everyone is getting ready. If you are part of any of the BOOM congregations, I know you are probably getting ready for tomorrow's service. You should be getting ready for tomorrow's service. You know, you have some of those last minuters that get ready in the morning. But, you know, I pray that graces be with you and you get ready. All right. So let's see. I'm going to give a couple more shout outs, and then we're going to move right along on tonight. Let's see here. All right. Well, as they come in, we'll definitely give a few shout outs as brothers and sisters come in and greet. But I want to go ahead and start sharing my screen here. I want to share my screen, and let's get on accord here. That screen. All right. So let me make sure that everyone can see my screen here. There it is, beef it up just a little bit on the lettering so you can look at this and see. But greetings to you all. Once again, I want to talk about a message on tonight, a shepherd's heart, a shepherd's assignment. I want to look at this. I think that there's a lot of people have a lot of questions, and why, certain leaders do certain things, how leaders function certain kind of ways. Many people have asked, well, why don't this particular teaching or that particular teaching, why is it a pastor or someone of that nature speaking about it, or even allowing it to be spoken within their congregation? As a youngster, when you're a youngster on the outside of things and you're trying to look over the fence at what's going on in the house because you're not directly in the house, or you could be in the yard of the property, but not necessarily at the table in the house. You can see through the window and you see there's a discussion going on in the house, but you can't make out what the discussion is about. That's kind of the way many people are. Oftentimes they are declaring and speaking certain things and saying, well, why this and why that? Some people wonder, why isn't the conversation of ethnic identity is being discussed in certain congregations or things of that nature? And once you become a pastor or a bishop, apostle, or someone who is an overseer, or someone who's leading a congregation, then there's a lot of things that you say when you're standing in the yard looking at what's going on at the table. There's a lot of things that you would say because you're not directly involved within the conversation, that once you become the one at the table, you realize that I shouldn't have said certain things, or I wasn't privy to certain things because I was in the yard looking in at the conversation, thinking that they should be talking about what I feel they should be talking about. So I want us to really understand this and really get some understanding of this type of situation. Once I became a pastor, even I realized that there were certain things that my congregation just didn't need. There's certain conversations, for example, like there's certain people who certain churches that are dealing with certain situations, like certain congregations are dealing with children or kids or teenagers dealing with peer pressure. Certain congregations are dealing with methamphetamines or different type of drugs. Well, that particular congregation is not going to need an apologetic course when they're dealing with issues of people within their congregation who are strung out on drugs. They don't need that. And so the shepherd over that particular flock understand what's that flock's need. It's just like, for example, like if you like true shepherds, like we're talking about those who are shepherds, who are shepherding animals and things of that, shepherding sheep, right? Well, that particular shepherd knows that particular sheep. The same way the sheep knows the shepherd's voice, well, the shepherd knows the tendencies of the sheep. Well, people will say, well, why isn't that shepherd letting the sheep run and roam freely when they're sheep? They should be roaming freely, because I know other shepherds that let their sheep run and roam freely. Well, the problem is this. The problem is that particular shepherd who's not allowing his sheep to run and roam freely understands that the sheep that he has that is assigned to his particular voice, those sheep are very gullible. Those sheep will wander off, or they'll run up on a wolf or something that will devour them. And yet that particular shepherd has to make sure that those particular sheep can only roam in a enclosure. They cannot roam outside. Well, this is the same thing that when we start looking at these particular things, if you go talk to many pastors and you ask them, hey, what's going on in your congregation? Many of them have different issues going on within their congregation often. So the thing is, I think it's very important that we understand that, but also the assignment of the shepherd is to make sure he protects the sheep, right? That's his assignment. He's called to those sheep are called to him. And we have to make sure because, and oftentimes there's certain things that we as shepherds love, that we would love for it to be taught. We would love to do it. We would love to have people come in and teach it. It's something that we ourselves are also have a love for, or an infatuation for a particular subject and topics. But unfortunately, if you have a congregation of people who are having marital problems, there's certain things outside of that that's not dealing with marriage. There's certain things that that congregation just won't be able to digest, or it won't be good for them. And so we have to be responsible. And I understand people who don't lead congregations. I once was there. I understand that in its totality. I understand those things because I was once one in the yard looking in and seeing what's the conversation going on at the table. And so there were many things that I even stated, even when I was outside or just a regular member or something like that, that once I was brought in closer in almost an assistant pastor role, associate pastor, youth pastor, whatever the role was, I understood what was going on behind the scenes. And so there were even conversations that even some pastors like, yo, man, you know, people are talking about, well, this, that, and the third. But at the same time, when you turn around and you look and see what the bills are, and then you see what's coming in versus what needs to be paid, then we talking about a whole different conversation. And people don't really understand that until they come to the table. I often had a mindset to cure the problem for people who question. And I'm not talking about, this is the conversation, I'm talking about people who are responsible shepherds, who are responsible leaders. I'm not talking about irresponsible leaders and irresponsible shepherds of people who fleece the people or who abuse the people. I'm talking about genuine, truly God sent shepherds. Unfortunately, those particular shepherds don't be able to afford it, the distinction, because everybody, when someone gets hurt, they lump them in with others. I'm talking about the genuine God sent ones, right? Most of the time, those shepherds are giving out and making sure that things are taken care of out of their own homes than others. And so to make sure they don't burden the people, oftentimes they take on the burden of that. So this is something that we need to look at. All right, so let's get into some scripture, okay? Because people clearly don't understand that the shepherd has an assignment, okay? And his assignment is to the flock. All right, his assignment is not to some idea. His assignment is not to some particular truth that is true, but it's not edible to those particular sheep. Those sheep won't consume that particular meal. Okay, so let's look at this, right? First Peter chapter number 5, and we're looking at verse number 1. Look what it says. So I exhort the elders among you. All right, now think about this epistle. All right, listen what Peter is saying. Listen what Peter is saying. So I exhort the elders among you. Why? Because that's the key. These elders are amongst the people. Nobody knows the people more than a shepherd who is amongst the sheep. Not shepherds that are outside the sheepfold or outside the gate trying to get in to be able to feed the sheep and then depart and not live with these sheep. These particular shepherds live with the sheep. They know everything about them. They know what the sheep needs. They know all the diet of the sheep. They know the deficiencies of the sheep. They know all of that because they spent time, they labored with them, they've sheared them, they've raised them. Some of them had to break their legs. Some of them had to heal them. These are shepherds who live with these particular sheep. Why? Because they are assigned to these sheep. But look what it says. He says here, I exhort the elders among you as fellow elders and a witness of the suffering of Mashiach, or Christ, as well as a partaker in the glory that is going to be revealed. Shepherd the flock of Yah that is among you. Listen, I want y'all to pay. See, this is another problem. You can't be a shepherd that don't live with the sheep, and you're trying to shepherd someone else's flock. That makes no, you are totally out of order. It's no different if many of you had sheep that you were assigned to, and that was assigned to your voice, and they were assigned to you, and you were assigned to them, and you were sent to protect them, to guard them, because you was given this assignment, and I come along and I try to shepherd your flock. I don't know nothing about them. I don't know how many wolves you fought off to them. I don't know any of that. All I know is you have a large crowd of sheep that I feel that I need to feed and partake of the sheep and play the shepherd part-time. There's no substitutions. There's no substitute teachers. There's no substitute shepherds. These are shepherds who live, reside, stay with the sheep, who've been with the sheep from the beginning, from when they were babes all the way to now they're adult having babies. You can't, as a shepherd, come along, especially if you're a shepherd that already have your own flock, try to come along and shepherd another's flock. You can't do that. This is what Peter is saying here. Listen to what he says. He says, shepherd the flock of God that is among you, not shepherd the flock that's among someone else. Shepherd the flock that is among you. That's the first sign of a bad shepherd. The sign of a bad shepherd tries to shepherd someone else's flock who is not amongst them. That is a bad shepherd. But look what he says. Not for shameful gain. So even the one who is shepherding the sheep amongst them, you don't do it for shameful gain, but eagerly, not domineering over them, or not dominating them, not lording over them, not controlling them. So even the shepherd that the sheep are assigned to has limits. So if the shepherd who is raising these sheep has limits of how much they can enforce themselves, if they have limits, then we all have limits, especially an outside shepherd. Hold on for a second, y'all. So we all have a responsibility. Even the shepherd that is assigned to the flock has a responsibility not to lord over them, meaning that you do what you know is best, you nurture them, you give them wisdom and guidance, but you can't control them. So we all have rules we must abide by. But look what it says here. But being examples to the flock. So if you want to do anything, then you be an example to the flock that you're assigned to, not an example to someone else's. Why? Because the shepherd that is assigned to those particular sheep, here's another case in point. John was a shepherd, and John the Baptist had his disciples Yeshua had his disciples that he shepherded over. You didn't see Yeshua or John trying to shepherd each other's flock. They didn't even do that. And we're talking about the Son of the living Yah, who John said that he is not even greater than, and that he can't even lace his sandals. And yet you found Yeshua, even when John sent his disciples, he said, go find, is he the one or should we look for another? You don't find Yeshua trying to teach them. Yeshua said, go tell John this. These prophecies are fulfilled and da 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 da. But you don't see him saying, hey, let me teach y'all what I'm teaching my sheep. Why? Because there's order. And good shepherds understand this. Bad shepherds don't. But look what it says. Verse number 4. And when the chief shepherd appears, Yeshua, you will receive the unfading crown of glory. If you follow what Peter is saying in verse 1 through 4, then the chief shepherd would be pleased with you. But if you don't follow what Peter is saying in verses 1 through 4, then you are a bad shepherd. And the chief shepherd is going to judge you as such. We have to stop trying to move in on other flocks, other gates, other sheep. We have to stop that foolishness. We have to stop that foolishness. You may be assigned to 10 sheep. That may be your measure. Someone else may be assigned to 50 sheep. That's not your measure. Just because you see he has more, that doesn't mean you're assigned to the more. Especially if you haven't even proven that you can be a good shepherd over 10. You haven't even proven that. You're despising the 10 that you have. And here's another thing. Just because you're a shepherd and I'm a shepherd, it doesn't mean that it gives you the authority to be on the same level. That's not what that means. Why? Because there's time that goes into being a shepherd. You haven't even had the war wounds and the battles. This is why David can say, hey, I fought the bear. I fought the lion. Why? He's giving you his history of being a shepherd, protecting things. But someone else comes along and say, oh, well, David, I can do that. But you haven't even been through fighting bears and lions, protecting sheep as a shepherd. You don't even know how to put a rock in a slingshot, let alone talking about fighting. But look what it says in verse number 5. Likewise, you who are younger, listen to this, be subject to the elders. This ain't talking about young in age, beloved. Nobody's despising your youth. This is talking about young and youthful inexperience. Because the Most High is not flattered by age, and wisdom does not mean that your wisdom, it doesn't mean because you're older, you're wise. This is talking about those who are immature in their knowledge, immature shepherds, those who have not even been through what it takes to be a good shepherd, or someone that it takes to guide sheep more than 10 or 5. So you younger shepherds, because you ain't put in the time, you younger shepherd because you don't have the experience, you younger shepherds who haven't even learned how to reach the people in your own home, You're trying to shepherd people in the neighborhood. And yet you haven't even learned how to shepherd the people in your own house. You're trying to shepherd the nations, and you haven't even shepherded your city. Come on, young shepherd. Come on, youthful shepherd. Likewise, you who are younger, be subject to the elders. Meaning you should be actually trying to learn, gain some form of wisdom, serve before you try to shepherd. Look at what it says here. Be subject to the elders. Clothe yourself, all of you, with humility. See, sometimes these young shepherds are arrogant. Sometimes the younger shepherd is the most arrogant. And not realizing he's naked with pride. Not realizing that they're naked with pride and should be clothing themselves with humility. Why? Because you don't have the skill, the time, or the wisdom to shepherd. You think that you are ready. The world can do that. People can make you think that. But how quickly we learn through experience. And then we get out here and we hurt more sheep than we raise more sheep. And then a wise elder shepherd has to fix, because you want to break legs, but don't know how to wrap the bandage for it to heal properly. It's an art and skill at breaking a sheep's leg. It's a certain delicacy. It's about being delicate when wrapping the sheep's leg that you broke, because everybody wants to rebuke, but don't nobody want to be long suffering and reproving and empowering and edifying. Everybody wants to rebuke, but don't nobody know how to help the sheep heal once they've broken their leg. Likewise, you who are younger, be subject to the elders. Clothe yourself, all of you, with humility toward one another. For God opposes the proud, but gives grace to the humble. Peter has to give them this level of wisdom. If Peter has to tell them this, they're definitely not qualified to shepherd. Because it's elementary to know about wisdom or humility. I'm sorry. It's elementary. That's the first thing you ought to learn when you become a new believer. When you're reverted back to being a believer or converted to being a believer, some of you. The first thing you learn is humility. Why? Because it was by his grace that you were able to convert or revert. So that is the first thing that you should understand and learn. That if it had not been for his grace, then I should have been dead in my sin. But when you don't appreciate the covering and the shepherding of the good shepherd, of the chief shepherd, when you don't appreciate what he's done for you, then you act like you act without humility. And you become entitled that you're supposed to be a shepherd. No, none of us are supposed to be. We're given the opportunity. Verse number 6. Peter says, humble yourselves, therefore, under the mighty hand of Yah, so that at the proper time he may exalt you. Listen to this, y'all. Check this out. Look at what it says in verse number 6. After Peter gives the understanding and the wisdom and pouring into these younger shepherds, and he talks to them about being humble and displaying humility, he says in verse number 6, humble yourselves. Why? He's going to give you the answer. Therefore, under the mighty hand of Yah, so that, here's the reward for humility. See, people wonder why, man, why does it seem like brother's doing this, brother elevating. It's in man, they growing, they doing it, they plant, they doing all this other. Next thing, every time we look around, oh, it's this, that, oh man, another congregation. Why? You know why? Because we've bathed and we have resided in humility. It doesn't make us more arrogant because we're doing the work. When you're doing what you're supposed to do, it shouldn't make you arrogant, nor do you look for applauses from people. Why? Because I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing. But look what he says. He says, in proper time, meaning that there's a set time for your elevation. But the problem is, too many people want to go and don't anyone want to wait. My time is now. My time is now. I got to get mine. I got to get it now. I got to get my, and all kind of factors factor in, age, everything. People start looking at all this other stuff. But the elevation comes through humility. But there's a set time, a proper time. And when we wait on the proper timing of Yah, then we're able to elevate, not just elevate, but elevate as an elder, or elevate as someone who has the wisdom and understanding of the chief shepherd. Why? It's because simply we're not lording. We have a responsibility to be humble. We have a responsibility to guide, be gentle, to protect. That's the demonstration of the chief shepherd. That's the demonstration that the chief shepherd gave us. He says, humble yourselves, therefore, under the mighty hand of Yah, so that at the proper time, I don't just want any time. I want to be in proper timing. Not just any time. I want to be in proper timing. So in order for me to receive the elevation, I have to check myself and make sure that I'm humble. I have to check myself and make sure that I'm not being a dominant, ruling, controlling. I have to check to make sure that I've checked off everything that Peter said in 1 Peter 5, verses 1 through 4, to make sure that when the chief shepherd comes and examine me as a shepherd, they would examine me properly and say, you have done the things that required of a good shepherd. So therefore, if you continue to do those things as I've laid out, then I can trust you to give you more sheep. Because you're not trying to lord over anyone else's sheep. You're not trying to take anyone else's sheep, but you are a good shepherd, and you're a shepherd following an example of the chief shepherd. So therefore, the chief shepherd who has all the sheep can disperse the sheep that needs to be assigned to my sheep fold. Verse 7, casting all your anxieties on him. Don't be anxious to be a shepherd. Cast your anxiety. It's a serious responsibility being a shepherd. You have to protect the sheep. While in protecting them, you still can't control them. That takes wisdom, because some people don't know how to protect without control. Casting all your anxieties on him because he cares for you. Be sober-minded. Be watchful. Your adversary, the devil, prowls around like a roaring lion seeking someone to devour. See? The shepherd, his duties and assignment isn't just to teach the sheep where to go, but his duty and assignment is also to watch the devourer and make sure not one of the sheep get grabbed. But if a sheep wanders off and runs outside of the gate into the hand of the devourer, then that's not the responsibility of the shepherd. The shepherd's responsibility is to protect the sheep within the gate, making sure no wolf comes in or roaring lion comes in to the gate. Your adversary prowls around like a roaring lion seeking someone. He's prowling around looking for the weak link, looking and searching for the weakest out of all the sheep. And when it's a sheep that loves to run off by itself, or a sheep that loves to run out of the fence, then he's lying in waiting. Resist him, firm in your faith, knowing that the same kinds of suffering are being experienced by your brotherhood throughout the world. Hold on for a second. All right. Resist him, firm in your faith, knowing that the same kind of suffering are being experienced by your brotherhood throughout the world. So you're not the only one with the assignment to protect, to guide, not to control. You're not the only one. Your brotherhood around the world is also has the same. See, the chief shepherd gives out instructions to the shepherds in their assignment of what to do. We all have the same assignment. We all have the same assignment, how we tend to sheep. We all have been given the instructions. And after you have suffered a little while, the Yah of all grace, who has called you to his eternal glory in Christ, will himself restore, confirm, strengthen, and establish you. So he's the one doing the establishing. He's the one doing the exalting. He's the one doing the elevating. We don't, as shepherds, decide to say, well, you know what? I'm going to go get my own flock. Or I'm going to take somebody else's flock. We don't do that. Bad shepherds do that. To him be the dominion forever and ever. This is very important for us to really understand, so that we can have some form of context of what's going on. It's not that shepherds or pastors, apostles, or bishops, it's not that they aren't concerned. And I'm not speaking for all of them. I'm speaking for the good ones. They are concerned, and many of the things that they enjoy as well. The issue is, all the sheep that they're assigned to, is it edible for them? Because guess what? Certain things can lead sheep away to being devoured. So they have to be prayerful, protective, humble, not controlling, but be on guard. I hope this helped all of you on tonight. I pray all of you have a wonderful, wonderful service on tomorrow, a wonderful day on tomorrow, a wonderful fellowship on tomorrow, and we'll talk with you soon. All right. Grace to you all, and shalom.